Welcome into episode 4 of our WTOL 11 Sports Podcast. I am Jordan Strack, joined tonight by Ottawa Hills head coach Chris Hardman, and I'm so excited to have you in, Chris. I've had Greg Dempsey, had Josh Linke from Otsego, we've had Steve Hardy from Southview, and I think you might offer the most unique perspective of anybody. You've been doing this for a minute. Before we get going anywhere, though, today is your 71st birthday. Is that correct?
How in the world did you know that?
Chris, I just happened to have
great research, Jordan.
Yeah, the research department did a good job. Happy birthday!
Thank you very much.
And you're spending your birthday with us in downtown Toledo.
With the permission of my wife. She was very anxious to have me come down here. So, anyway, I'm happy to be here.
Well, I appreciate that. I got to ask you though. You said you don't know what a podcast is. How did you have to ask around some of the younger guys around the staff or what?
Actually, Jordan, I did not ask around. I have complete trust in you. So I said, whatever happens, happens. I'm in your hands, and we'll have fun.
It's going to be great. We'll sit here and just talk ball and a bunch of other things over the next 30-ish minutes or so. The beauty of this thing is I have no format. There's no like script or anything. We just kind of go, and I love it this way. First off, how long have you been doing this? And we're talking baseball and football. How long have you been doing this?
I got a master's degree from Bowling Green in August of 1974 and was fortunate that 2 weeks later I was teaching school at Ottawa Hills High School. That was 1974. I was 22 years old, and I've been blessed to that I haven't left yet. So it's been wonderful for me. I'm at a incredible place with great kids, community, and I've been very fortunate.
Let's talk about Ottawa Hills. It's such a unique place because it's in the city, but it's also it's got a smaller school vibe. What has Ottawa Hills been like for you over all these years?
Well, you're right. It is unique. In fact, I think what our kids do in performing arts, in the classroom, in athletics is pretty phenomenal, and it's a tribute to parents that care about education, a community that gets behind the school, obviously great teachers within the school system. We also have great coaches, and our kids respond with all the pressures that kids all over face today, and our kids excel at their homework, and we've had a lot of success on the athletic field. So it's been a special place. They have accepted me, and as I said, I've coached some wonderful, wonderful kids over my time at Ottawa Hills.
You've been the baseball coach and the football coach for so long. Do you have people? Because people always ask me, they're always like, "Oh, what's your favorite sport?" And my response is always, "Whatever season we're in." Like I honestly and I truly believe that. Like during football season, I love football. During basketball, hockey season, I love them. During baseball season, I'm all in with baseball. Do you have one? I mean, baseball, I think is probably your first passion, right?
Well, that's an easy one to say that because I've done that the longest.
Yeah.
But no, I'm like you. I was a three-sport athlete growing up. My father was a coach, and I go season to season. I wish every young man was a three-sport athlete. We're lucky we still have a few left at Ottawa Hills, but they are few and far between. But no, I love the change. I wouldn't want to do anything for 12 months. So, right now it's easy to be a football fan. I coached basketball in our program for 30-some years, and then obviously with baseball. But if you had me to pick, I would still say the same thing. I'm very lucky that I can go from season to season, and I've been somewhere where I got to coach 3 sports for many years, and now 2.
And you're so good at all of it. When did you know that coaching was probably in your future? I know your dad meant so much to you, and your dad was an unbelievably successful coach at Piqua, right?
Piqua, Ohio.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he had so much success. Did that kind of carve itself out for you when your dad was a coach, or how did that work?
I got a D in chemistry as a freshman in college and realized that the medical profession probably wasn't in my future. No, I grew up around it, Jordan, and again, I don't know what God's plan was for me, but I think I've been able to live it out. If I have a skill set, it's probably doing what I'm doing. Not so much the X and O's, but I'd like to think I've been pretty good with relationships, and that's a lot about coaching as well as teaching.
When you talk about relationships and you've been around for a little while, how much have the kids changed? Not the sports, but how much have the kids changed from 1975 to 2022? How different are the kids, and maybe even some of the pressures and things that kids face now that we didn't deal with back then?
Well, that's a great question. I think the world has changed. There are so many more opportunities for kids and things to do, but kids are still inherently good. And of course, ours grow up in a pretty good environment. So I don't see a great deal of difference, to be honest with you. I just see kids with so many more choices that, and I don't know if that's a good thing, but and I see it's certainly in the bad thing. But kids are still wonderful young adults, and I think our job as teachers and coaches is to try to teach them right from wrong, good from bad, dream big, work hard, and as a coach, we have an incredible classroom, the diamond, the court, the field, and so for me, teaching and coaching have always gone hand in glove, and I think I've had the same relationship with kids, whether it was on the field or in the classroom.
I touched on kind of with your dad, but what did your dad mean to you in terms of just growth and things like that, and all he accomplished, being able to watch him do that for so many years? What kind of path did he put you on?
Well, I would tell you that my father always said to me, a little tongue-in-cheek, but I knew he meant it. He said, "You're a better coach than I was." And I always said, "Dad, I had a great teacher." And whether I was better or not didn't matter. He would tell you that probably the greatest thing he ever said to me when I started teaching many years ago, he said, "Kids don't care what you know till they know that you care." And I've tried to let that be my guiding light, my voice in dealing with kids. And I would like to think that anybody that I've been able to associate with would know that I cared about them first as a person, as a student. And that lends itself right over to the field.
You talked about the three-sport athlete thing, and I think, we're in a time where everybody thinks they're going to college. Everybody thinks they're going to be a pro. Everybody wants to specialize. I don't want to say everybody. A lot of people want to specialize. What are your thoughts on being multi-sport athletes, and how does it benefit one sport to another, you think?
Again, a wonderful question, and I have a couple thoughts about that. The numbers about kids, that high school athletes that then are able to go play collegiately or then go on and play professionally, and the number is so small. And again, I have no problem with someone dreaming big. I think it's great. But realistic, I would tell most athletes enjoy the high school sporting experience, being on a team. And I think I want to keep people in a competitive arena. Mm-hmm. And I would tell those, maybe it's not your first love, but rather than an off season, go be a part of another team. At Ottawa Hills High School, we need all of our athletes to participate. So I get a little disappointed when somebody says, I'm really going to focus on. I think working in the off season, there are some pluses, but I think being in a competitive arena still has more value.
I'm with you 100% on that. I was never really good enough to play multiple sports, and I just stuck to my one because I just wasn't good at anything else. So I, you still have, it feels like, a passion for waking up and going out on the ball diamond during baseball season, lining the field, and taking care of it. And in football, I'm sure the same. But where does that passion come from, and how do you still wake up every day excited to go do those kind of things?
Well, it starts with having a wife that understands what I am passionate about. Nothing would happen if she didn't understand Chris Hardman and what I love to do. But, I grew up on a baseball diamond. I grew up being around coaches and teams, and I guess you would say I didn't know anything else. And so the fact that I've been able to continue to do that, I've been on school buses for pretty much, 71 years because I was riding school buses when my father was coaching. And every time I get on a bus, I'm grateful that I get to do it. Taking care of the baseball diamond, it can occasionally be a chore, but we take a great deal of pride in our field, and I want our kids to feel good about playing there, and so we do it, and it's still fun.
It's incredible after all these years to still be doing it. You touched on your wife. For her to be allowing you to do this, I don't want to say allowing, I mean, that might not be the right word, but for her to be allowing you to do this for this many years, what does it take to find a coach's wife and somebody that can truly understand all the hours and things that you have to put into it?
Boy, that's interesting. It's I think she works at the high school, and she has relationships with the kids, and she loves to see them compete, but she knows that I'm going to have to do things that are going to take a little more time, that might take away from her. And I don't know that she always loves that, and I don't blame her for that.
Yeah.
But she accepts that, and consequently, you can make things happen when she's willing to kind of let go a little bit. We postpone some things that I want to get to at some point,
Yeah.
but the music is still playing pretty loudly inside of me, and so so at this point, she's been great, and I know she will continue.
I'm not trying to pressure you or anything. How much longer do you want to do this?
Well, I have an answer.
Okay.
I have 4 grandsons, 3 granddaughters in Ottawa Hills, but 4 grandsons, and I'd love to coach all 4 of them.
Wow.
The youngest is in the 1st grade, so I can do the math. That's 12 more seasons, but he came out of the womb throwing left-handed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I just thought, but no, that would be, I mean, a perfect situation for me. And again, it takes so many other things to happen.
Sure.
But no, I would love to continue to coach. Football, I haven't coached basketball in a while, but, football, again, football season, man, I'm juiced. But the best thing that we've been able to do, particularly with football, and I had said to you earlier, is I have incredible coaches. Yeah. My wife said to me regarding football, she said, "What do you do?" And I said, I get out of the way of these wonderful coaches. And so, being able to do that, you never know how long that, we'll be able to do that. But every day is a great day.
When you were younger, would that have been harder to do, to kind of let somebody else run a certain thing, or have you always been able to delegate a little bit?
I think growing up around coaches, the best ones that every one of my high school coaches is in the Ohio Coaches Hall of Fame. Wow. For their sport. So I was around great men and great assistant coaches, and I always felt like the best thing you can do is surround yourself with good people and then turn them loose. I hardly know everything, and I just think that it's easier to do what I need to do that maybe an assistant can't do, but let them do certainly what they know more than me. And, right now our football team is very, very, we're coached very, very well with these gentlemen. So,
well, let's give some shout outs to these guys. Who's on your staff that's helping and kind of leading the way right now for you guys?
well, we got a bunch.
Go
Scott
ahead. Listen, we got all the time in the world. Go crazy.
Well, Scott Pillarelli has coached with me 2 different stints, and he's just been remarkable. As well as we got him back on our baseball staff, and he's a difference maker. Tony Byer has coached with me on 2 different occasions. Also been a head coach in football. Incredible mind. We're really lucky. I have 2 guys that were college coaches. And got tired of the college grind, and they have kids on the team and they're on our staff, and they've forgotten more football than I know. And one of the best football coaches that I've ever been around, Greg Neuendorf, who replaced me some years ago, and he's now back on our high school staff. And he's brilliant. And then you throw in Brandon Carter, who so we have great people working with our kids, and I told our parents before the season began, I said it doesn't get any better than what we have coaching our group of guys. So that's what I have in football, and we were really lucky.
You were talking to me about practice time and managing practice time. You're at a smaller school and you've got a smaller roster, but how have you learn to manage that roster and keep guys? And you said you think your team's on the field probably less than anybody.
Well, here's what I would tell you. The Ottawa Hills student is going to have a lot of pressure to succeed in the classroom. I've learned to accept that over the years. Yeah. I recognize they're going to ACT classes. I recognize they may be in the choir. They may even be in the play. And so we have great respect for their time and how we manage that, as well as the coaches. They all have wives and families, so we have really worked at being efficient. If we're out on the field more than 90 minutes, it's been too long. But, we lift weights and we watch film and we do those things. But in terms of getting out on the field, one of the very important priorities is, when you have a limited squad, is you got to, keep them healthy, and we've struggled with that, but you can't get them beat up in practice and you can't wear them out in practice. So it's a fine line between how hard we push, but, our guys are pretty smart, and we can prepare without banging on one another.
I've known you for now, it's got to be 16, 17 years-ish, something like that. I think the first time I ever met you, you were on that staff that was representing Team USA up at the Silverdome, right?
2005.
Yeah, that would have been I think that was probably right around the first time that I had met you-ish. But you've done so many different things. Like, what are some of the things that kind of stand out to you over all these years that you've accomplished? Anything like what really jumps out at you?
Well, I can tell you, and people find this hard to believe that know about baseball or football, basketball. When I first started at Ottawa Hills, one of the very first coaching job I had was I was a cross-country coach. And they told me they said, "Do you want to be coach cross-country?" And I said, "I don't know anything about it." And they said, "Well, we have never won a cross-country race at Ottawa Hills." And I'll never forget the very first meeting I had as a coach. I had a girl, a guy, and a dog show up, and here I am starting my coaching career. In 2 years, we were in Columbus, and I knew nothing about cross country, but I did try to go find out what I could. I was young enough to run with the kids. We had fun, and we went from a girl and a guy to 55 participants, and I was very proud of that. And I coached cross country for 9 years before football. And having said that, our cross-country team right now is phenomenal. Yeah. They're first in the state, and I think they're headed for a shot at the big prize that later this fall. So I'm not putting any pressure on them, but we have guys now that know what they're doing, and we have some incredible kids. So we'll see how that plays out. But it would be starting and building a cross-country program.
Really, all the things that you've accomplished, all these years, and that's where you kind of go back to. That's incredible.
Well, that and I guess the second event was the first time we won a playoff football game at Ottawa Hills. It was monumental because it was so incredibly difficult to do. And I remember that vividly. In baseball, gosh, I don't know. I mean, we won a state championship and came close many other times. But, that first playoff win in football we were glowing for a long time about that one.
I brought up that I've known you for a long time because I've seen you you've run multiple different offenses. Like, you've done things completely different. Is that a matter of adjusting to your personnel, and how do you kind of try to fit and realize what you have and how you're going to run things?
Well, yeah, other football coaches, they're wing tee guys or they're spread guys. And, when somebody says, what's your offense this year? My response is, tell me our personnel.
Yeah.
As an example, we went from a double wing team the last 3 years to a spread team this year. Well, what changed? Our quarterback, who unfortunately broke his wrist, so we're going to be without him for a while. But our quarterback and some of our skill guys, so it made sense for us to do some RPOs as opposed to stuffing up into the line of scrimmage where we were 20% pass and 80% run. But, I absolutely, I think it's based on your personnel. We don't have the numbers to stuff kids into a system. Right. Your coaches have to look at realistically what's the best thing these kids can do, and then try to find an offense or a defense that takes advantage of their skill.
How much we talked about how much the kids have changed, but how much has the game changed when you think about, like, in 1975, if I would have told you about RPOs and reading a defensive end and then letting a kid make a decision, how much has the game changed? Like, how different are things now?
Well, the easy way to answer that is to compare it to baseball.
Yeah.
Baseball hadn't changed. Same game.
Yeah.
Football's changed. I think if you put somebody in a time capsule and they would come back and watch today's game, they just wouldn't understand it. But it's so wide open. A lot of it has to do with the incredible talent of kids. I mean, they can throw it and catch it and run with it, and the athletes are bigger and stronger and faster, and so the game has gone that way, and you see it at all levels.
Do you prefer to spread things out, or do you prefer to pack it in, run the wing tee, or what? Do you have any preference?
Well, I was a quarterback in high school, and the only time I got to throw it was 3rd and 8, and it was like a coach. Everybody in the stadium knows that I'm going to pass. How about on first down? It's easy as a coach to go, hey, let's really have some fun this year, and let's spread it out and just throw the ball over the lot. Yeah. And, everybody would be excited. But if you don't have the personnel to do it, that's a terrible offense. To be honest with you, 4 years ago when we started running a double wing and had literally all 11 guys in about 6 yards, it was what was the best way to play offensive football. But yet, and the kids handled it just fine. And yet, I think they enjoy throwing the ball around a little bit.
Yeah, of course, kids are, of course they want to. I wanted to ask you about this because it's affected you guys directly this year. The official shortage, referees. How difficult do you think of a job do these referees have nowadays when I mean, not only are people yelling at you from the sideline, people have yelled at referees for 100 years. But now there's the ability, even at the high school level, to go back and watch a replay, or there's video. I mean, you guys have literal video on sidelines now on iPads or TVs behind the bench. Like, I mean, the referees have such a tough job as it is. How difficult is it, and how do we fix this?
I think there's several things that we can do. It isn't about what you pay them. Most of the people that officiate, umpire, they want to be around the game. Mm-hmm. They legitimately want to give back. Sure, they want to earn a few extra dollars. There's no question about that. But I think it's up to coaches to teach our players, and in some cases our parents and our fans, the respect that these guys deserve. I tell our parents in a meeting, look, if we don't have officials who are in the game, well, we found out this year we couldn't play on a Friday night, and but I think that's the message that I try to tell our parents, our kids, and our coaches. I mean, look, we all think we know what just took place and that the officials missed the call, but I say check yourself before you go out there. I don't think anybody's not trying to do their very best. So I think it starts with just all of us treating them with respect. Now, part of it also has been that the people that started officiating, maybe when I started coaching, have since gotten out of the game. So it's really how do we entice young people to do that? And I don't have all the answers for that, but I know we can't play games without officials.
Yeah, I mean it's such a tough spot because I think everybody kind of recognizes there's a problem. Everybody kind of understands that. Everybody understands that they have a really tough job. But people also are very passionate. I think it's one word. I feel most bad for basketball officials. I think basketball officials, when you're in that tight gym, you hear everything that everybody's saying. And there's so many bang plays in basketball, block charge, those kind of things. They might have it. I don't know if they have it the toughest, but they might have it the toughest. I'm with you. Like, I don't know exactly where we go and how we do this without first addressing that we have a problem, and especially up in the stands, there's a problem. Like I said, coaches have yelled at umpires and officials for 100 years. I mean, you were probably yelling at umpires in 1975. Like that's. I mean,
Indeed, I was.
I mean, kicking dirt on the umpires, like that's like it was a rite of passage for a baseball manager back in the day. Like that's when you. But I'm with you. Like I don't know where we go, but we do have a problem, and it's tough. But how did your kids handle having to move a game to a Thursday? Were they okay with that?
Absolutely. When we knew a month in advance that it was an issue, and as it got closer, we just decided to turn it into a positive. Hey guys, we may be the only game in town. This would be awesome. Most importantly, the Ottawa Hills community turned out for the game, even though we had school the next day. It was an incredible crowd. They were pumped up, and the kids handled it great. Yeah, it was a short week of practice, but we turned around and made the next week a longer week, and we gave them 3 days off. And anyway, it was fine. I thought we handled it great.
All right, last thing, and then I'll get you out of here. Let's talk about your squad a little bit. You're a little banged up right now. You mentioned your quarterback, but how do you guys, when you have 31 on the roster or whatever it is, how do you guys manage the injuries and keep this thing going? Because listen, you're off to a 3-1 start. You're playing well. How do you manage the injuries right now?
Like every football coach in America, you tell your team it's the next man up, but it's much more than that. I think you have to make sure that you have prepared. It's on us as coaches to make sure that guy that might be going, I probably am not going to ever play. No. Be ready to go.
Yeah.
And so, this week we've prepared every able-bodied person to be out on the field and to fill the role, because we're down 4 players in 7 starting positions, and you just count on the next guy. We get him ready and go out and have some fun and compete.
You've dealt with it before. You will deal with it again over the next 12 years, as you've said, and I'm going to hold you to that. 12 more years out of you. You've got to.
That'd be great.
That'd be fantastic,
That'd
Chris.
be great.
I really appreciate it. Happy birthday again, by the way.
Thanks, Jordan. Enjoyed spending some of it with you.
I appreciate that. All right, that's Chris Hardman. He's the Ottawa Hills football coach and baseball coach, and he's been a basketball coach for a long time as well. I appreciate the conversation. We'll see you back here next week.